Good evening, everyone, and thank you very much for joining us tonight on a very American-themed debate evening. Tonight, a quick reminder that if you haven't already got your tickets for the Spring Ball, we have our final release for tickets all this evening, so please do try and get one. It should be a really fantastic evening. And tonight we start off with the first emergency debate of term. If you're unfamiliar with the format, we will have a speaker in proposition, open the debate, then opposition, then it's your chance to speak. So if you want to make a point from in the floor round, please do I'll ask for points in proposition, opposition, and abstention if you're not sure either way, or if you have a question about the motion, something else that you'd like to hear from our speakers. If you would like to make a point during the speeches, that's also possible. If you just stand up and say, on that point or point of information, each of our speakers will either welcome your point or they're also very welcome to wave it down. So either speak up or sit down, depending on what they do. Tonight, we have 4 great speakers on the motion. This House believes that Donald Trump is taking the piss. The first speaker on proposition is Daniel McKinnon, a first-year engineering student at Queen's. Daniel.
Ladies and gentlemen, I will first start by saying that I don't mean to go down the crass route of merely talking about the alleged actions of Donald Trump in Russian hotels. That will be down to my partner, Callum. I will instead be talking about how he's not being serious when it comes to the job he was elected to. He's not being serious about governing. He's taken, quite frankly, a ridiculous approach, not only in relation to politics as usual, but also in relation to his campaign promises. As he is yet to do any actual governing, we can only judge him on his cabinet picks so far. When he ran in the Republican primary, it was as an anti-establishment candidate who was self-funding, and who will be beholden to nobody. He later gave up on self-funding, but kept talking about all his opponents were beholden to special interest groups, and that is, to an extent, a valid point. If you need to raise lots of money to be elected, it will mean that you have to tailor some of your policies to those special interest groups. He claimed that Hillary Clinton would have Wall Street running the government on no fewer than 47 occasions. And yet he now has 7 former Goldman Sachs executives in his prospective government. He claimed that he would drain the swamp and remove the power of lobbyists in the federal government. But his education secretary, who, by the way, wants to privatize education, has no experience in education. She has, on the other hand, donated large sums of money to the Republican Party. Lots of draining going on there.
So you're making all these points that he has bad policies or will have bad policies. Why do you assume that he's taking the piss rather than just he doesn't know what he's doing?
I'm going to get onto that later. So, his prospective director of the Environmental Protection Agency was elected to a previous role with money from the oil industry. How can you protect the environment with money from the oil industry? And those oil executives who were giving him money were actually those looking for permits to frack in Oklahoma. So that's a great way of taking the piss. No, thank you. His nominee for Attorney General once testified to Congress that the Ku Klux Klan was okay. He prosecuted people who were attempting to register more black people to vote. He also doesn't believe in the rights of the LGBT community. This is all from a man who is likely to oversee the protection of laws and civil rights. Civil rights! Hardly a fantastic resume. Yeah.
You say he doesn't believe in the rights of the LGBT community. Please name one event in which he has said that.
In his Senate confirmation hearing yesterday, he said, when asked, do you believe in the rights of the LGBT community and that they should be protected, he said no. That's only the positions that are Senate confirmable. His other choices make them seem almost sane. His White House Chief of Staff is a position of great power. Richard Nixon's Chief of Staff, who never received a vote in his life, was referred to as his Prime Minister. However, Trump decided to appoint someone with zero governing experience whatsoever. Reince Priebus, who was completely ineffectual in all his attempts during the campaign to curb Trump's rampant xenophobia. What's far worse are his choices for chief strategist Steve Bannon and senior counselor Jared Kushner. Jared Kushner has no governing experience whatsoever. However, he is Trump's son-in-law. Obviously, Trump has no problem with people getting better jobs because of who they're married to or who they're related to. Unfortunately, on the campaign trail, he said on a number of occasions that nobody would ever have heard of Hillary Clinton had she not been married to Bill. Steve Bannon was the executive chairman of Breitbart News, the alt-right news website that rejects facts in favor of whatever will rile up the far right. Their headlines range from, "Would you rather your child have feminism or cancer?" to "Birth control makes women uncontrollable and crazy." He is without a doubt a despicable excuse for a human being. Last but not least, his pick for vice president, Mike Pence, the former governor of Indiana who signed several draconian laws into effect, giving people the ability to not serve a gay couple due to your religious convictions, which has been seen the world over as taking any opportunity to remove the rights of homosexuals. He also believes in a cure for homosexuality and has privately given money to several men who believe they could find this elusive gay cure. Finally, there is but one thing to say. Donald Trump is completely and utterly taking the piss when it comes to the job of governance, but I have one fantastic solution. Make America Great Britain again.
Next speaker is Edgar. Edgar is a second-year chemistry student at St. Cat's. Edgar.
So, English is not my first language. When I first read the motion that Donald Trump is taking the piss, I generally thought I would have to talk about the golden showers and the Russian hotels. Unfortunately, the Prime Minister or the first speaker refused to do so. So, nevertheless, let's talk about what they said. Because I think the biggest problem in what the proposition said to us today is that, they made good reasons why he's going to be probably a bad president. They made good reasons as to why his policies are horrible at most part. But to take the piss means that you do it just for the laughs, right? Just for the giggles. You know what you're doing is something bad, but you just do it because it's for the laughs. It's something that you think it's funny. The problem here is that they do not recognize that Donald Trump actually believes that he's doing a good thing, right? When he does these things, he's not taking the piss. He's not trolling anyone. He actually generally thinks that he's doing something good. So he might be bad, but he's not taking the piss. That is something that you should approve in. But let's go to our case. We're going to have one central point, which is going to be why Donald Trump, essentially, is just a crazy old man saying crazy things. He's not taking the piss. There is no comedic genius or ingenuity in his words or actions. He's just an old man spewing lots of crazy and questionable things. What do we mean by this? Essentially, what you have to understand is when people age, some of their, not all of them, but some of their faculties go down. Before I take your point, I will remind you that I said not all. Yes, please.
Nevertheless, that's rampant age discrimination.
It may be not a good thing for me to say, but it is the truth. I'm not saying for every, but for some cases, when you age, your cognitive abilities go down. The line between what is true and what is not is to become blurred. Sometimes even daydreams are reality for some old people. But let's talk about how this specifically talks to this debate and why Donald Trump is not taking the piss when he says these obscene or really interesting things in Twitter, but rather that he's just old two symptoms. First symptom, shouting. When you read his tweets, the amount of explanation points in the tweets indicates that he's basically shouting. The amount of all caps he uses also means that when he thinks these things, he's basically shouting. So symptom number two. Symptom number two, nonsensical things. I mean, sometimes when you're really old, you say nonsensical things with poor grammar. I think that applies here as well to his tweets. Now, why is this all thing significant? Because essentially, it's a tragic thing that in the 21st century, the internet is also accessible to some old people. Because unfortunately, it is the truth that sometimes the things you want to say may be in good virtue, may be in good cause, but nevertheless are really harmful and quite bad. So essentially what Donald Trump is doing right now, he has a Twitter account of about, 10 million or so followers. And that is the biggest problem, because when you have old people who really want to say something, really want to spew their conspiracies and all these things about Obama, like being born in Kenya, you don't listen to them, right? You say, yeah, Grandpa, thanks, I'm going to visit in like a month or so. You don't listen to them. What unfortunately has happened is, it's not the case that Donald Trump is taking the piss out of us. It's that we're taking the piss out of what he said. An old man who said these things just because he's old, I do not think that he's generally taking the piss out of this. Not mutually exclusive. He may be just crazy. But even if if we're talking about what really means to take the piss, which will be my last point, is you do say some insane things, but at the back of your head, there is some sanity that recognizes that you're being ironic, right? If there is no sanity, you cannot be taking the piss by definition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Edgar. And now it's the chance for anyone in the chamber to offer up a point either in proposition, opposition, or abstention of the motion. Tonight, if you just raise your hand when I call for each point, and then from upstairs or down here, just shout out if I indicate towards you. So please do make points, because it really is great to hear what your engagement is, and also if there's something more that you want to hear from any of our speakers, the closing speakers hopefully will respond to what's raised. So any points in proposition? Yeah, in the blue jumper over there.
Having lived in America for many years, but being European, I've seen in America they're sort of the brightest people. 40% of them believe that it's less than 6,000 years old. Can we really expect an election to do much more than 11,000 like Donald Trump? Simply feeding into the people. Democracy is supposed to be a reflection of the people. As far as I'm concerned, is reflecting their lack of knowledge of the prize.
Thank you very much for your point. And in opposition of the motion, either upstairs or downstairs? Yeah, just in the blue jacket back there.
I did say not all. And also, it's not mutually exclusive from him being just crazy. Still, not taking the piss.
Thank you. And any points in abstention of the motion, something more that you want to hear covered in the debate, or any questions for either side? Yeah, is that a hand raised there? Great, thank you very much. And with that, we will move into the second half of the debate. Closing side proposition is Callum Church. Callum is a third-year law student at Downing. Callum.
I want to start by responding to the first opposition speaker. It's ironic that the people taking Donald Trump seriously managed to offend a group full of old white people. And to respond to, what was your name over there? Sarah, fantastic. Lovely to meet you, Sarah. If you wanted to hear some piss jokes, well then, you're in luck. I am now going to say a sentence which has never, ever been said in this chamber before. Everyone want to hear some pee jokes for the next 5 minutes? I was going to do the you're in luck one there, but that doesn't work. I'm just really glad that for everyone at home that the union is producing a stream of this. Okay, enough. Let's just whiz on to some of the serious points. Number 1. Oh yeah. So there is the Kremlin stuff, which is a massive international diplomatic emergency and probably stops Donald Trump from being president. However, oh my God, all of the jokes about the golden showers. He paid Russian hookers to piss on a bed that Obama slept in one time. That is how Donald Trump is taking the piss, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, I could stop there, but I want to do 2 semi-serious points about the golden shower story, and then I'll carry on. Firstly, what was the aim of that? I mean, does Donald Trump fully understand how voodoo works? Like, that's like an ex-partner cheating on you and you deciding to slash the tires of a taxi that they took one time on a stag weekend in Prague in 2013. Secondly, I kind of feel sorry for the prostitutes. Their names have been dragged through the mud. They're just trying to make a good, honest, they're trying to make a living. So, also, why did he have to get prostitutes? He has a wife. I don't know if that's kind of, I don't know what marriage is about. Maybe that probably isn't that, but, you know, let's go with that. Basically, the reason that we think that Donald Trump is taking the piss is because America is clearly taking the piss. This is a country where on November the 8th, 450 people woke up, had a normal American morning. I don't know what that involves, probably shooting a raccoon and gargling a hamburger. I don't know, I'm sorry, Americans. But they went to the polling stations and voted, 450 people, for Hulk Hogan. Ladies and gentlemen, if that's the person that 450 people have voted for, I'm taking that as a representative sample that everyone was taking the piss in that election. Next. Okay. Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, was exposed by former president of this fine institution, Mr. Christopher Steele, a former employee of MI6, who has since gone into hiding. Apparently, there are unconfirmed reports of him being spotted at his old college, Girton. MI6 would do something, but even they're not going to Girton to meet someone. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a solution for the Trump problem. I don't know whether you think he's taking the piss or not. I don't really care. But I obviously think he is, otherwise I wouldn't be standing here. But I have a solution. Admittedly, step 1 is kidnap. So we take him, bear with me, it makes sense. And if you get to the end of this story without thinking I'm too weird, I will do a late 90s, early 2000s kid TV reference. So you kidnap him and Pence, because obviously you don't want the loony who he elected to be his vice president running the country. You take them, you tell them there's been a security alert, and you then lock them in a building which looks exactly like the White House and tell them they can't leave. Then you film every single second of it. Yeah, go for it. Why not? I mean, I mean, this isn't a serious suggestion, but I mean, that's the problem. This is all ridiculous, but the fact that it's plausibly ridiculous is a complete example of why we're taking the piss. So we take them, we film every second. I mean, Channel 4 needs something to replace Big Brother, so we can go with that. And each week, we're going to turn it into a reality TV show. We're going to vote celebrities in to go and meet Donald Trump and Mike Pence. If we tell them everything they want to hear, Donald Trump and Mike Pence will never leave. If we tell Donald Trump that we're building a wall and Mexico's paying for it, we don't need to tell them that it's around the building we're keeping them in. And also, if we tell Mike Pence that science has proved you can pray the gay away, he will never leave the chapel. draw my speech to a close? Okay, very quickly, will do. Basically, tomorrow, one of two things is going to happen, and I'm completely certain. One, when he lifts his hand and says, "So help me God," or "So help me God," a big booming voice is going to come from the sky and go, "Oh, hell nah, I didn't sign up for this," and thunderbolt, sorted. The other option is big black letters in the sky that say, "Game over." Ladies and gentlemen, Donald Trump is clearly taking the piss. Please vote in proposition. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Callum. And now finally, to close the debate, we have Lewis. Lewis is a first-year student who studies history at Sydney, Sussex. Lewis.
All right, good evening, everyone. I'm going to kick off this speech tonight with a story about my grandmother. Yes, she's finally getting her outing in the Union. Now, she's a wonderful woman. She's 90, worked as a nurse for most of her life. And I had the really horrific task a few days before the end of the vacation of sitting there. I was visiting her, sort of mug of tea in one hand, and this wonderful 90-year-old Glaswegian woman goes, "Lewis." "Yes, Gran." "I was reading the papers today. What's a golden shower?" And good grief, was that an awkward moment. This woman, she's religious, she's church-going, she's seen many things. But the idea of the Honey Monster's psycho cousin getting pissed on is not one of them. And so I say, well, it's an act. It's with prostitutes. Aye, but they have said if he used prostitutes. Well, he did, but he also did something else. He had them dispose of fluids in front of them. And then, this is when May Sinclair surprises me. She surprised me, she surprised my sister. I think she probably surprised her dead relatives who heard this from beyond the grave. "Oh, you mean he made them piss on him?" I don't even know where that came from that woman. But, as we've seen tonight, the elderly are surprising us at every turn. But anyway, on to the main bulk of my speech. We've heard from the proposition that Donald Trump is crazy, so thank you. He's crazy, he's unstable, and he shouldn't be president. As my colleague has said, to take the piss, you actually have to be sane. Donald Trump lacks the intellectual depth to take the piss. As far as he's concerned, he sits there and he thinks, "I'm going to do this. I have a nuke. I hate China. I don't know what I'm going to do. Smash China." "You mean some plates, Mr. President?" "No, I mean smash China." And he will take his stubby little fingers and he'll probably put some extensions on his stubby little fingers first, but then he'll finally get down to business. But anyway, Trump's cabinet is not fit for office. Can we just have a show of hands? Who here has seen Dr. Strangelove? Dr. Strangelove, fantastic. You will be familiar with the scene where Dr. Strangelove wrestles with his arm, trying desperately to prevent it from snapping into a salute I can't actually do in this chamber if I want to have a career. And it goes, and I was watching Jeff Sessions' confirmation hearing the other night, and I was reminded of that. It was a case of, "Mr. Sessions, raise your hand and swear on the Bible." "I'm not, Bubba, Jeffy boy. Don't let yourself do the salute. Don't. Life is like a box of chocolates. You're in the Senate, boy. You got to do it." So we've got that. We've got James, declined. We've got James Mad Dog Mattis at the Department of Defense. Now, I understand the Secretary of Defense has a certain martial element, but anyone called Mad Dog should not have their hands on serious information. That's like saying, "Yes, here's my babysitter, Nancy." So we have an unstable cabinet, and then we have the masochistic Darth Vader that is Mike Pence. That man is, I'm going to get serious here actually, that man is a deeply malign individual. Yes, Trump may be crazy. Trump may be unstable. Trump may lack the intellectual depth. But Mike Pence doesn't. Mike Pence has governed Indiana for the past decade or so, and he has made life worse for people living there. If you're LGBT, you're screwed. If you're a woman, you're in trouble. If you're Mexican, you're also in trouble. In fact, if you are anyone other than someone who fits Mike Pence's conception of the world, you're in serious trouble. And this is what we're missing tonight. This is why Donald Trump isn't taking the piss. In his words, he may be crazy. On paper, he may make a good line. But in the people he's appointed, he's shown that he's prepared to back up his words with deeds. Now, I'm going to finish on a quote. This was a message I got sent by a friend of mine on the day that Trump got announced as president. Now, this girl's from Tennessee, very conservative state in the Deep South. She's a fresher at Georgetown. And this is what she wrote. I have to live in the city in which he will be living. I have to know he is destroying my favorite city in the world and the only country I ever called home. I have to tell my future children when they ask me who I voted for that I couldn't vote because I was denied access. I have to hope that those children don't come in college because I've lost access to birth control and affordable abortion. And that's just me. That's just her, but there are hundreds like her in the same position. There are thousands in a similar position. And there are millions who are awaiting Trump's inauguration tomorrow with fear. You do not inspire that kind of fear if you're taking the piss. So oppose the motion tonight.
Thank you very much, Lewis, for closing the debate tonight. Now, with the emergency debate, the way that we vote is by acclamation, which is essentially shouting. So in a moment, I'll call for those who support proposition, opposition, and then for abstention, it's usually kind of a loud shrug to show that. So those who would like to vote for side proposition tonight, shout aye. 1, 2, 3. And those who would like to support side opposition tonight, say nay. 1, 2, 3. Nay. And anyone who'd like to vote in abstention tonight, shrug loudly. 1, 2, 3. That was a nice mixture of indifference. I think that side opposition have it tonight. Congratulations and well done to all the speakers, and thank you for all the points on the floor. The main debate will be starting in a couple of minutes, so please enjoy. Thank you.